Hello, it's Friday, April 19th of 2024, and today I'm on an Amtrak train on the way to Quantico, Virginia for my first ever episode of Villages on the Tracks, the series where I visit small towns connected to the railroad. Quantico Station is located about 35 miles south of Washington Union Station, down the Virginia Railway Express Fredericksburg line, and it's completely surrounded by a military base. Quantico was first settled in 1654, but its railway station opened almost 200 years later in 1872 by the Richmond, Fredericksburg, and Potomac Railroad, which is now defunct. Very creative name, by the way. In the early 1900s, Quantico briefly flourished as a small tourist town, primarily built by the aptly named Quantico Company, but that success was short-lived. When the U.S. declared war on Germany in 1917, joining the First World War, the government needed land to train thousands of new Marines. You can probably see where this is going. Unsurprisingly, Quantico was deemed appropriate, and 5,300 acres of land was leased and shortly after purchased from the struggling Quantico Company. The Marine Corps base has since grown tenfold. Thank you. Welcome to Quantico. Quantico itself has a population of about 500 people, so I think it's pretty amazing that it has its own train station and its own train service, because there are cities like Columbus, Ohio, for example, that have millions of people that don't have any rail service. There are actually many trains that serve Quantico. There are 7 VRE trains from Southern Virginia into DC every morning, and 8 VRE trains out of DC to Virginia in the evening. In addition to the VRE, there are also 7 to 8 Amtrak trains per direction every single day, which comes out to a grand total of about 27 trains per weekday and about 12 to 14 on weekends, because VRE doesn't actually run on weekends. And as you can see, in addition to passenger rail service, there are also many freight trains. That's a lot of locomotives. And there it goes. So as you may have noticed, there's a big renovation going on right here, and I'm going to investigate that further right now. So if we walk around the back here into the parking lot of the station, we can get a little closer to the renovation project. So behind me is an amazing $24 million expansion or renovation of the station, which according to the VRE website is already done, and it was completed in 2023, December 2023. That does not seem to be true. So this renovation consists of many amazing improvements, primarily that they are extending the platform along the entire VRE trains, the Virginia Railway Express trains, and I'm pretty sure it will allow for level boarding on those trains. Not Amtrak though, because Amtrak is slightly higher, but on VRE trains, the boarding door is lower. In addition to the platforms, there will also be a fully accessible footbridge, which is just behind me now, with 2 elevators, one on each side, and the stairs, of course, as well as a 3rd track with a platform. So before we start exploring the town, which I think will actually be the more interesting part of the video, I want to go through some amenities of the existing station, as well as the waiting room, which is very cool. It's interesting. So at the existing Quantico station, we have 2 very low-level platforms. The one on this side, the one that goes towards Washington, is about 2 cars long. Actually, I arrived on this one, even though I was coming from Washington, so I don't know exactly how the operations work here. And on the other side, it's a wooden platform that's about 1 car long. Compare this to this. That's a really big difference. Both platforms are accessible via lifts, so not really accessible, they're not level, but if needed, a wheelchair can go onto a lift, or someone who cannot climb steps and get onto the train. There's also a bike rack, as well as a few covered benches. And some trash cans, which is nice. Since this is a commuter rail station, there's also a timetable back there with a fare chart as well, sort of a grid chart that you can use to see how much your train will cost. And the timetable, interestingly, shows departing Amtrak trains as well, which I've never actually seen before, and I wish this was at all stations. I love knowing when the train will come without looking at those bad departure screens. Although, as I just realized, this is out of date. This is from 2020. This is all wrong, I think. So, yeah, that's one thing. They do have to change these, or else it becomes useless. There are also ticket machines, of course, and interestingly, a map for VRE trains that shows live where they are. So those green dots right there are currently the VRE trains coming from Washington down to Spotsylvania. Well, some of them may not go the full way. One major problem of this station is the lack of any Amtrak information boards at all. Other than the lack of real-time information, this causes confusion for people because they don't know if the train on the track is actually theirs, and they don't even know what track to wait for the train on. Now I'm going to show you the waiting room, which also doubles as a museum of sorts. It's very quiet in there, so I don't want to speak inside. I don't want to disturb the peace, so I'll just be quiet and show you the exhibits. And if you can't sit through 20 seconds of silence, skip to this time, or else enjoy. The waiting room also has bathrooms. I think Quantico is a fascinating place because there's no suburban development anywhere really close by, and the downtown has a very walkable urban core. This is most likely due to the fact that the town is surrounded on all sides, meaning that it just can't physically grow. There's no space. On the eastern side, there's the Potomac River, and everywhere else, we have the Marine base. Restricting sprawl creates walkable places. Who would have thought? The Marine Corps base is huge, spanning this whole territory here. It's home to many training centers, including the Marine Corps University and the FBI Academy. There's also an air facility a few miles that way. So I've been talking about the Marine Corps base a lot, and you may have not noticed that the entrance is right here. And if you're walking, you have to go by that police officer and show proper ID, which I do not have. That's why, as I was also told by the visitor center, I have to stay to the east side of the railroad. Oh, I love this dinky little crossing arm here. This is my favorite boarding door because of the fact that it's just in the center of the road. This is Quantico's lovely main street, Potomac Avenue. And since there's no street view in Quantico because of the Marine Corps base, the only way to really experience the street is coming here, or watching a video, I guess. I think it's a lovely street, except for maybe the amount of cars, but it's understandable because the Marine Corps base is very large and the distance is very large and it's not really feasible to walk there. The main street itself is only like 2 blocks long, but in these 2 blocks we have around 30 odd businesses, a copious amount of barber shops. There are restaurants, bars, cafes, banks, convenience stores, a marine shop with souvenirs, and a bunch of boutique stores as well with very specific items. Streets like this used to be very common in the country, but now they're rare, they're the exception. And I think these are great. This is the classic small American town, and it's weird that this one is surrounded by a military base. I actually got a sandwich from this deli here for lunch, and I realized that a lot of the stores here have very restricted hours, well, especially compared to cities or other places. I don't know if this is specific to Quantico or just small towns in general, because I'm not actually too familiar with town life. I just entered the Marine store and I realized that it's not just souvenirs. There's also uniforms, which is cool. You can get custom uniforms, I assume mostly for the Marine officers. There are books, there are just clothes, like merch, stuff like that. It's really cool. It's a cool store. I'm now just going to wander around the town and I'll show you interesting things when I find them. So just around the corner from where I was is this gate here, and behind the gate is the Marine Corps college, or there's a community college here and the university behind it. You can't really see it from this angle. There's also some residential property here, and it must be kind of nice living here considering that this is probably one of the safest towns in the country. Hello, cat. Okay, bye. Look, there's even a playground here. I'm assuming this is a public playground, even though it is blocked off. Yeah, it does seem public, considering that this is the community center, but it's unfortunate that it's fenced off for some reason. So I've come across a bus stop, which is weird because I didn't even realize that there was a bus here. Huh, this is weird. It clearly states on this bus stop sign that Route 1 stops here. Although if I look on the Route 1 map, it says that, due to security restrictions, buses are not permitted on base. You have to take a yellow cab and you call them to shuttle you to the nearest stop. So it seems like you can be shuttled from this shaded green area to the start of the route. I'm curious then that if you use a cab, if you have to show ID, like when you enter the base, or if, since you're just going through and not actually stopping in the base, they just let you through. I am not gonna test that one. I also find these no U-turn signs fascinating because it's just a simple intersection, but you can't make a U-turn, like, explicitly. It's weird. All the way down Potomac Avenue is this marina here and the Potomac River, which is very wide at this point. In addition to the river, we also have the saddest beach I've ever seen. It's not really a beach, it's just low tide, so you can kind of see the riverbed, but this is funny. On the waterfront, there's also this little park here, the Quantico Municipal Park, and there are some basketball courts there, some benches, this sort of wooden deck area. It's quite nice. It's small, but it serves its purpose. And there are children playing in this area, but as the sign says, don't worry, because they're slow children. Quantico, the name itself, is actually a corruption of a Native American name meaning by the large stream. This is backed up by one of the newspaper clippings in the museum. That's a pretty apt name considering this. Anyway, I think that this gorgeous view of the Potomac and this flooded path is a great place to— Wait, don't go yet. I have a quick story. So I bought my flexible train tickets to Quantico from Union Station a few weeks in advance, and it cost me $30, a pretty good deal. The problem is that the train I took to get to Quantico on recording day was delayed by more than 1 hour because they didn't have the diesel locomotive prepared. Consequently, I decided to change my return leg to the next train, scheduled to leave about 2 hours later, to be able to spend more time exploring the town. When I called customer service, they were easily able to rebook me, but they charged me an additional $18, the difference in price. I argued that the extra charge should be waived because of the hour-long delay, but that didn't happen. But right after I hung up, I sent a proper email to Amtrak explaining the situation and asking for a refund, and within a few days, they provided me with an $18 voucher that I can use within 1 year. And on top of that, the system had automatically given me 250 points because of the delay. All of this to say that I'm very pleased with the customer service, and I'm glad that Amtrak is flexible like this. Okay, I'll allow Past Nathan to finish his outro. And this video. Thank you very much for watching. I think this is an amazing place, an amazing town. It's not far from DC. If you have the chance, I do recommend you visit. It's a 45 to 1 hour train ride. Hopefully it doesn't get delayed like my train did. It got delayed by an hour. But anyway, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!